What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and NVIDIA's Tegra 2 processor is finally available on the market in a smartphone. The Motorola Atrix 4G out on the market right now, $199.99. If you buy the laptop dock, that kind of sets it up as a mini laptop, if you will, it's $499 out the door for everything. Otherwise, if you go back in the next day, it's $499 for the laptop by itself. So you're going to have to make that split decision as to whether you want the laptop at the point of sale or if you want to pay more in the coming days and weeks after you've tested the device a little bit. But it's a cool device, 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, dual core, Android 2.2 with Moto Blur, 5 megapixel camera, HD capable on the video front facing camera as well, 4-inch QHD display. It's loaded and it's $199, so it's right in that sweet spot. Is it the device to have, or should you go with the Inspire, or should you wait for the Thunderbolt, or some of these other devices that are coming out in the first half of 2011? Well, we'll find out in the review. First, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile. They've given us 2 of these so we can give them away to you in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go in to get this, you don't have to deal with rebates, messy paperwork. You walk out the door paying $199. Enough of that. Let's get into the review. See which one's the best. Motorola Atrix 4G, HTC Inspire. Which one should you get on AT&T? We're going to find out. Let's check it out. So we have 2 dual-core firsts on the market. We have the Motorola Atrix 4G, first dual-core smartphone, 1 GHz Tegra 2 dual-core chipset, and then we have the Motorola Zoom on Verizon, first tablet that's dual-core out on the market right now. So exciting times for wireless, most definitely. But this was announced at CES, won Best of Show in several different categories, and a lot of people were really excited about it, myself included. And it's an awesome device. It performs very well in speed tests, but that said, I've had some frustrations with day-to-day use. At least if there's anything I've learned about this business, day-to-day use and actual speed numbers tell a totally different story. You can have a super fast device that does everything perfectly and on paper looks good, but in day-to-day use may not be that fast. I've just seen some lag and some slowdown. It's a little frustrating to me, given that it has this zippy NVIDIA processor. So let's jump into the review though. 1 GHz processor, as I said, dual core, 4-inch QHD display, 5 megapixel camera on the back with a flash, front facing camera for video calling. You have your typical 4 capacitive buttons, and Android 2.2 with Moto Blur. Now, a lot of people are going to be put off by that, myself included. I was a little frustrated to see Moto Blur come on this device. I see the need for Moto Blur on like a mid-range device or a low-end device. That's perfectly fine. But Moto Blur on a high-end device, that's like a Lexus with a Toyota Corolla engine. It just doesn't work out. It's a high-end device that's kind of hindered by Motorola Blur, in my opinion, kind of bogged down by it, if you will. But here's the device. Out of the box, you get a couple of programs. Typical Moto Blur accounts program. AT&T stuff like Code Scanner, Family Map, Navigator, Blockbuster's pre-installed. You have Live TV out of the box, My AT&T, Motorola's Phone Portal. You have a couple of Blur-specific programs like Phone Portal, Files, and some different icons like email. The icons slightly different, little things like that. They're different across the different devices. Task Manager, which is a Blur thing. WebTop Connector, which is what allows you to connect to the laptop. Now, here's something that's interesting. If you go into the store to buy the device is $200. If you want the laptop dock, you can buy it both as a combination for $500. So you get the laptop dock and the phone. If you walk out of the store and walk back in to buy the laptop dock, it's $500 by itself. So it's one of those things you have to make the decision as to whether you want to, pick it up in store, or whether you want to wait and take the risk that it's, take the risk of spending $500 as opposed to $500 for both. But YP Mobile, V-Lingo, and Motorola Social Networking, among other things. So as I said, it's running Moto Blur, so you have the typical Moto Blur stuff on this device. You have the typical phone application with the tabs up here, recent contacts and favorites. And don't get me wrong, the device moves very fast in most things, but here's where I started to see the slowdown. We'll turn it off and turn it back on. You can see, I'll move it out, it takes me several times, and I know to most users that's not going to be a big deal, but I move it over several times, between 2 and 4 times before it registers my gesture. That's a little frustrating for a device that has a 1 GHz, very powerful processor that does well in speed tests. But you can see 7 home screens, just like the other Moto Blur devices, and you can scroll through those by going down here and moving through. You can get through those very quickly. Now, one benefit to Moto Blur, at least Motorola's applications platform, are the widgets. They're very customizable. You can change the size, and let me jump over here to this empty page so we can see those. Motorola has some pretty decent widgets. Let's show weather, for example. Click on weather. You can click current location. We'll hit done. It'll bring up where I'm at. And so we can move it around anywhere on the screen. So let's move it over here. But not only can you do that, you can customize the size of the widget. Whereas with any of the other platforms, both stock Android, HTC Sense, Samsung TouchWiz, any of those, you can't do that. So this is nice because it allows you to customize. You're in the driver's seat. You can change, move that back if you want to, make it a little bit smaller, make it larger, and depending on the widget, you can make it certain sizes. But go down to date and time, for example. Do that, and then we can scroll over here, bring that up, and you see, so it's very customizable. You can make it your own, and definitely very cool. But before I get ahead of myself, let's take a look at the design of this device, because you have something like the HTC Inspire, which launched a couple of weeks prior. That's wonderful build quality, unibody metal, feels good in the hand. Then you have something like the Atrix, which while it's more powerful on paper, the hardware specs aren't as strong. You see this kind of plasticky build quality, which may not bother some people, may bother other people. But you can see on the left side, no volume rocker on this side, but you do have your HDMI out port and your micro USB charging port. Over here, speaker, Moto Blur indicator, AT&T logo, camera, of course, and then you have your power button. It took me forever to actually find the power button on this device because at CES they were already powered on and charging. So it is actually here. This doubles up as a biometric security thing, which is very cool as well. Instead of doing a pin or doing a drawing to unlock your device, you can do this and just swipe your finger down, and it unlocks your device, which is pretty cool. Volume rocker on the right side, and then other than that, it's pretty minimalistic in terms of design. 3.5mm headphone jack on the top. So feels good, and it's that nice sweet spot between too large, which is kind of like the Inspire, 4.3-inch display. It's a big device, and then the 3.7-inch displays like the Droid Incredible, the Droid 2, some of the other ones where people say, hey, this might be a little bit too small for me. I need to upgrade. So between this and the Galaxy S line, they've done a really nice job of balancing, too big and too small. Let's take a look at messaging. I just want to show you the keyboards that come installed on this. It comes with Motorola's multi-touch keyboard, which has always been one of my favorites. The screen is a little bit too small, and I'm not sure if this is an actual issue with the device or if the screen's just too small. I don't type very quickly on it. The device seems to hang up on typing. I type very fast, granted, but it seems like the device hangs up. But anyway, you have Motorola's multi-touch keyboard and swipe as well, so you get your choice of which one you want to use. Now the downside is, you can find keyboard alternatives outside of the Android market, but if you want another keyboard, like let's say you want HTC Sense keyboard, you're ready to sideload that keyboard APK, or file rather, over onto the Atrix 4G, you can't do it because out of the box, you can't sideload applications onto this device. AT&T's disabled it. So you either have to root the device, install your own custom software. For those of you that don't know what rooting is, install your own custom software, or you got to deal with swipe and the multi-touch keyboard and some of the other options that are available to download in the Android market. But the multi-touch keyboard's pretty good. I just have had to slow my typing down because it can't keep up. Whereas another device like the Droid X does keep up at all times. So I'm wondering if it's something with this individual device. So we'll say something like the quick brown fox jumped over the river. Let's see, river. And through the woods. And with anything between typing and unlocking the lock screen and pulling down the notification bar, which I occasionally have the same issue with that, where it takes 2 or 3 gestures to register my, or 2 or 3 times to register my gesture, I keep telling myself, slow down, wait 1 second. I'm doing the same thing with typing. I'm having to slow down my typing in order to get it to recognize what I'm saying. And then I think, okay, I shouldn't have to do this with a device that's running an NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor. I shouldn't have to wait a second to unlock, or wait a second to pull down the notification bar, or wait a second to type and slow it down. This device should be plenty fast enough. And it is on paper, but it just seems like some of the day-to-day stuff is a little slow. You can use both keyboards in portrait or in landscape mode. And as you can see, it's a very clean interface, and it's the typical Motorola interface. So let's send it off to old man McTweety, for example. And you can see it pops up in that chat form, just like There you go. Well, actually, that's my message saying that person's an invalid number. But you get the idea. Typical text messaging bubbles, and that's how it pops up. Let's take a look at the browser, because this is one area where I was very impressed with this device. The browser is absolutely fantastic. Let's load up phonedog.com to give you an idea. The pitch to zoom, absolutely stellar on this device. Thanks to the high-powered processor, runs fantastically. Even with flash enabled, pinch to zoom is fantastic, double tapping is fantastic, everything loads very quickly. And of course, this is the second device after the HTC Inspire 4G to be a quote-unquote 4G device on AT&T. It supports carrier's HSPA Plus network, so when that does go live, I'm not quite sure if it's live yet. I don't feel like I'm getting HSPA Plus speeds. The rumor that I've heard is that they're turning it on March 1st, that it's not actually turned on yet. So take it or leave it, that's totally a rumor, not any confirmed information, but you can see here's our page. I mean, even, the page isn't even loaded, and pinch to zoom seems to be very quick to me. I mean, no lag whatsoever. Like, I mean, look at that in comparison to some of the other Android devices we've worked with. Let me wait for it to load as well so you can get the best picture. Let's see. Yep, loaded now. So you can see, I mean, to me, for an Android device, which, Android historically, web browsing has been kind of behind devices like iOS and WebOS. This definitely bridges the gap. It makes it a little bit better. Portrait and landscape mode, very easy. And then double tap to zoom out, double tap to zoom in. So I've just found it to be very responsive and very quick overall. Now, of course, this is a Moto Blur based browser, a little, minor customizations to the stock Android browser, but you're familiar with most of these things, including Windows, which when I go to open that up, I can open up a new window, and then I can scroll back over to PhoneDog if I want to and continue my browsing. So, I've been reasonably impressed with that. Particularly, I mean, take a look at that. Little to no lag.